our
Good
distinguished
morning.
panelists, colleagues from across the Caribbean, North America, Africa, Europe, and most certainly elsewhere around the globe. It is a privilege to be here to welcome you and to thank you for attending our first anniversary webinar of the University of the West Indies Mona Innovation Support Center and Intellectual Property IP Help Desk first anniversary celebration. We welcome in particular our panelists and also campus librarian who will be Dr. Paulette Carr, who will be giving our welcome and opening remarks. Dr. Paulette Carr.
Thank you so much, Ms. Douglas. It's really good to see all the persons who are here, and the UWI Mona Library is pleased to welcome you to this webinar, Improving the UWI IP Ecosystem in celebration of the first anniversary of the Technology Information Support Center, as Ms. Douglas has said, and our IP Help Desk here at the University of the West Indies, Mona. And it is one of our signature events of the library's Open Week. So I just wanted to put in context about our Open Week, that this week marks the 5th staging of Open Week, which is a time when the UWI Mona Library employs different and varied ways of intentionally engaging with all our stakeholders, as well as showcasing the work of the library, our programs, services, and collections, as well as the achievements of our staff. With the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, in 2020 has been a very challenging year, but it provided opportunities for us to display agility and resilience. And so we pivoted very, very early to virtual offerings and services. And so this week, all our activities for Library Open Week are being presented via virtual platforms. So just to tell you about some of the things that we did, on Monday, we had the launch of the week of activities, as well as our signature celebration of books exhibition, in which we recognize the publications of our faculty and staff over the past year. 17 authors were recognized in a virtual event. On Tuesday morning, we engaged faculty and staff in an informative workshop on UWI Scholar, the research portal of UWI. In the afternoon, we had an exciting time with students and faculty in exploring the range of e-resources offered by the library, and colleagues guided participants through effective ways of using these resources. Yesterday, we took graduate students and faculty through a stimulating workshop examining the breadth of our special collections and ways of enhancing their research with these collections. And during the week, our very innovative relaxation room, and I really implore you to join that, to go into that relaxation room. I did it last night. And our celebration of books exhibit will be on display the entire week. So please go to our website and join us. Today, we are celebrating the first anniversary of the Technology Innovation Support Center at UWI, which is the first of its kind in the English-speaking Caribbean. And we are so very proud of our collaboration with JIPO, WIPO, members of the UWI community in making this year a very, very rewarding one. You will hear further about some of our achievements. We celebrate the library realizing its goals and the UWI realizing its goals also of intellectual property initiatives and by extension, innovation at UWI during the year. A very, very special welcome to all participants global, regional, and local IP community. I see people from all over the world. I was going to list some persons, but I said, let's not do that. It's too many. And our many, many specially invited guests. By no means, however, by no means least, however, our distinguished presenters, Mr. David Neal, Mr. Ituku Batoy, Mr. James Lobwama, and Mr. Noir Bukwara. A special thanks to our team led by Ms. Simone Harrison. And of course, we have Ms. Myrna Douglas, who is our chair this morning, who has coordinated and worked hard in planning and executing this webinar. A very warm welcome to you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Carr. Now we'll have Ms. Leclerc Bellamy. Ms. Bellamy is an attorney at law and a trained communicator. And of course, she has extensive experience in intellectual property. And as such, she is the executive director of the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office. Ms. Bellamy is a very effective communicator, and I have benefited from the JIPO Institute in which Ms. Bellamy taught several sessions a few years ago. Now we have on the floor Ms. Lily Claire Bellamy.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're hearing me.
We're hearing you now.
Your mic is muted, Ms. Bellamy. Your mic is muted.
Okay, good morning again. I'm sorry. I hope everyone is hearing me now. It's my pleasure on behalf of the Intellectual Property Office to join with the University of the West Indies on this really significant day, the celebration of the Technology Innovation Support Centers. It's the first anniversary, and this is quite a significant achievement as the University of the West Indies and the University of Technology started this process a number of years ago before we actually signed the service level agreement with the World Intellectual Property Organization to establish the Technology Innovation Support Centers. And I'm quite happy today to be here at UWI celebrating the first anniversary. I'm going to run through a presentation, which I will make available because we're trying to work within the 2-hour time limit. So without further ado, I'm really grateful to have our speakers from Uganda and also from Morocco. I've been to Uganda. It is a beautiful country. Morocco is still on my bucket list, but we'll see if that is possible given the present circumstances with COVID. So we're going to be looking at the TISC Jamaica network. So I'm just going to share with you a brief introduction to the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office. JIPO was established in 2001 by the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office Act. But prior to the establishment of JIPO, intellectual property was dealt with and addressed by a number of departments, agencies, and ministries in Jamaica. Intellectual property has always been a critical component of our development agenda here in Jamaica. At JIPO, our mandate is to establish and administer a modern and effective intellectual property system that will act as a catalyst for international competitiveness, facilitating economic growth and national development. Our vision is to be a state-of-the-art intellectual property office that contributes to wealth creation. And our goal is to create a robust ecosystem for IP in Jamaica to attract investments in high-grossing industries that will facilitate the growth of local industries. But what is intellectual property? Intellectual property is a property right that focuses on the creations of the mind. It is the legal rights which result from intellectual activity in the scientific, industrial, literary, musical, and dramatic fields. intellectual property gives the intellectual property right owner several exclusive rights, and two of those exclusive rights include the right to prevent the unauthorized use of your work and the right to control how your work is used. The main focus areas of intellectual property would be industrial property, copyright, and related rights. But there are a number of other emerging areas. And for those who follow the work of the World Intellectual Property Organization, you would be aware of the Intergovernmental Committee on Genetic Resources, Traditional Knowledge, and Traditional Cultural Expressions. And that is a committee that is looking at the possibility of putting a treaty or treaties in place to address the area of genetic resources, traditional knowledge, and traditional cultural expressions, and how the IP in those areas can be protected, giving rights to indigenous peoples and local communities. But in the main and accepted and the treaty-based areas of intellectual property, we have on industrial property, we have the area of designs, the area of patents, trademarks, and geographical indications. I'm doing this because we've invited quite a number of persons to join us today for this very important activity. And not everyone is aware of what intellectual property is. So for those of you who are quite au fait, my apologies, but for those who are learning, this is a necessary thing. But what is a Technology Innovation Support Center? Okay, Technology Innovation Support Centers, my bad, we spell it CNTRES, my apologies. So basically with a Technology Innovation Support Center, you get the assistance of the World Intellectual Property Organization. The Jamaica Intellectual Property Office is the focal point in Jamaica for the Technology Innovation Support Centers. And the hope of the TISC is basically to enable persons to be able to do searches regarding patents and other areas of scientific research. Basically, the TISC hopes to stimulate innovation and patent registration. The main activity or the main objective is basically to provide access to technology information to existing and potential innovators and investors in Jamaica. JIPO, in collaboration with the World Intellectual Property Organization, is responsible for the development of technology innovation support centers in Jamaica. The establishment, basically what we're hoping to do in Jamaica and ultimately the rest of the English-speaking Caribbean is to establish a network of technology innovation support centers at universities and other strategic locations across Jamaica. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, the first TISC in Jamaica was established at the University of the West Indies, Mona Main Library in October 2019. The goals for the TISC in Jamaica include strengthening innovation, research and development capacity of residents, to share knowledge and to facilitate access to information so as to stimulate innovation, intellectual property registration and commercialization. Because what we want to do is to create a culture where those who are innovative and come up with solutions to existing problems have the ability to do the research. So you may come up with a brilliant idea, but once you search, you may discover that someone else had that idea and it's already been protected. So the TISC will allow you to search to see, okay, I have this great idea, and then you discover, wow, someone else had the idea and fleshed out the idea. But then they stopped at point A, and my thought and my possibly invention goes to Z. So I still have an opportunity to register that. Another of the expected outcomes from the Technology Innovation Support Centers would be the registration of patents in Jamaica using the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office for the filing of these registrations, to improve the quality of the applications that are submitted to our office, to increase commercialization of inventions, and also to improve the Global Innovation Index for Jamaica. And I'll just say that we have been steadily moving up the Global Innovation Index chain. So the TISC, we hope, will continue to stimulate that increase and growth. The basic conditions required to achieve the objectives and outcomes of the projects include the establishment and the strengthening of relationships between JIPO and prospective TISC operators. And at this point, I think I'll just share with you that we have reached out to a number of tertiary institutions in Jamaica and also scientific research institutions in Jamaica, and a number of them have started the process of establishing technology innovation support centers. So the work is far advanced. The TISC also hopes to train staff to facilitate, assist, and advise persons who come to the institutions where the technology innovation support centers are. We also are exploring partnerships or cooperation with a number of organizations in the private and in the public sector. JIPO and the host institutions will agree to collaborate to establish a TISC. So before we get to the point where we put anything on paper, we will have discussions and training sessions, because at the end of the day, we want to have an understanding between JIPO and the TISC host that this is something that will be mutually beneficial, not only to JIPO and the host, but ultimately to Jamaica and our goals, especially as it relates to Vision 2030. I just want to focus now on the University of the West Indies and the actual work that was done at UWI with the TISC certification. We had a number of sessions. We had a session in June, two in July, and one in August. In August, we had the assessment. And basically, the participants were tested on all areas that were covered in the training, and they received a certificate of completion, which was signed by Dr. Carr and the Executive Director of JIPO. The JIPO TISC Memorandum of Agreement will ensure that the invention disclosures are screened, because we need to make sure that what persons bring to the table is actually something that is novel, and the TISC will facilitate and help that. It will, and as I mentioned earlier, we're hoping that we'll have an increase in patent and other intellectual property filings by the host institutions. And basically, the TISC will also, the hope of the TISC is to enable not only persons from the host institutions, but persons who are in the surrounding communities, the ability to access the services that are offered by the TISC. Basically, that's my presentation. But before I close, I just want to say that we continue to work with other interested tertiary and research institutions to establish technology innovation support centers. This TISC Jamaica network is an activity that is integral to the World Intellectual Property Organization, and the government of Jamaica has signed a service level agreement with the World Intellectual Property Organization to facilitate the establishment of TISC in Jamaica. We're willing to do certification of technology innovation support center staff. And finally, I'd like to congratulate the University of the West Indies Technology Innovation Support Centers. Dr. Carr, Ms. Harrison have been integral, and Dr. Branch, who used to be with the university, have been integral to the establishment of the Technology Innovation Support Centers. And we look forward to continuing to work with them and wish them greater and renewed success. And we look forward to receiving applications for patents and other forms of intellectual property. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bellamy. That was certainly enlightening. In fact, one of the things that I believe the University of the West Indies can control is our innovation, our levels of innovation. And therefore, what the university can do is to control innovation and expand our opportunities around innovation and thereby our economic viability. COVID-19, for example, is one such opportunity that presented itself. I mean, it's a bad thing to some extent, but we take the opportunities from that. And I want to highlight the work of the Faculty of Science and Technology, in particular, Dr. Kaur, and other colleagues in that faculty who supported the hospital, the health sector, in terms of their own innovation, providing sanitizing solutions to various departments on the campus, and I believe selling outside of the campus. So there are opportunities for us to innovate, most certainly. And I would want to endorse Ms. Bellamy's congratulations to the team, and also to mention Dr. Benjamin Branch, who did quite a monumental task in getting this TISC desk, help desk, up and running prior to his departure from the University of the West Indies. And so at this time, we will have Ms. Dr. Paulette Carr, once again telling us what happened over the last year in terms of the TISC Innovation Center. Dr. Carr, you're on the floor. Dr. Carr, you may go ahead. I'm not sure. We're not hearing Dr. Carr.
I'm so sorry. I was not, my mic was muted. I'm so sorry. So yes, are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you so much. So Miss Bellamy, thank you. You shared some of our snippets of what we did during the year, but I was like, wow, we have a long way to go, Miss Bellamy, in terms of what this TISC at UWI Mona should do. But I'm just going to just run through very quickly. You'll hear some of what Miss Bellamy spoke about. And so I just wanted to say that we are extremely grateful for the partnership of JIPO in our activities towards the work of the TISC at Mona and our IP Help Desk, which was launched on October 16th, as Ms. Bellamy said, during our Library Week, Open Week last year. The TISC at Mona, she said, also represents the first in the Caribbean, and of course is sponsored by WIPO. However, the work of this milestone started long before 2019, and it was during months of deliberation towards the TISC that the library was also mandated by UWI PVC gift to establish an intellectual property desk. And so, which is why we launched both the TISC, which we had done in partnership with JIPO, but we also had an intellectual property initiative from the university that we had to push forward. And the university was as a stage pushing their entrepreneurship and innovation support to the UWI. So we had to run with that very, very quickly. So these are just photos of the launch. And Ms. Douglas and Ms. Bellamy spoke about Dr. Benjamin Branch. That's Dr. Branch and Ms. Bellamy actually cutting the ribbon for the opening of the desk last year. And as Ms. Douglas said, Dr. Branch did monumental work in getting things going. So we are grateful for his work. So it's just going to be a lot of this. Is part of our launch again last year. So just to focus a bit on some of the highlights, I just wanted to say that very, very early, JIPO supported our staff with training, online training. So 8 staff members from the UWI community, not just the library, participated in online training for put on by JIPO. And so we are very, very grateful to that, for that. Ms. Bellamy mentioned the Memorandum of Understanding, which we're still working out the details of. And I'll just take you through some of the support that was given to us by JIPO in preparing our staff and also sensitizing the UWI community about intellectual property. Okay, so very, very important to prepare our staff moving ahead. And maybe they should read not just library staff, but UWI MONA staff. You notice that in December, right after we launched, Dr. Branch was invited to participate in JIPO training in Trinidad. Later in the year, we began training for library staff. So in December, we had training by JIPO. Our own Dr. Goff came in and did training to our librarians and paraprofessionals. And then we started, as Ms. Bellamy mentioned, the JIPO IP certification, which says that our staff will be able to give service in a TISC. That is mandatory from JIPO. And so we went along. JIPO, of course, gave their full support, and all of these training sessions and the certification process was actually run by JIPO with Dr. Goff giving a lot of the training. So we are very grateful for that. But we also had a number of training sessions sensitizing the community, the MONA community. So we had a graduate seminar in January 2020 with graduate students, and there is our own Dr. Goff again presenting to graduate students about protecting and monetizing their intellectual property and their creations. Because what we find is that a number of our graduate students begin their work and start pushing out, trying to monetize, but not understanding the protection that is so, so very important for their creation. So that came very, very early after the launch. There was also a copyright workshop that Dr. Goff again presented to, and this time notice that we were looking at copyright issues relating to photography, dance, theater, music. We had undergraduate students who came into the Philip Sherlock Center and they were asking a myriad of questions. It is clear that we need to be sensitizing our students, not just at the graduate level, but at the undergraduate level with more of these workshops. And again, we had this lecture. I think this lecture was actually requested by the Institute of Caribbean Studies. In February, they asked us to take their students because they have a lot of students who are enrolled in intellectual property management for cultural and creative industries. And so they wanted their students to be sensitized. And I think all along we had been looking at trying to reach out to or community or Mona community, but I believe that with the setting up and the launch of the TISC and the IP help desk, this gave some kind of push to the work that we were doing. We are now into COVID, and the signature webinar, we moved out of those face-to-face workshops that we did with students and with our own staff, and this was an awesome workshop that was really coordinated by JIPO and UWI. We had input from a number of our stakeholders, Jam Copy, and so we're so proud that we could push this very, very early within the COVID period. And of course, it was a virtual workshop, a webinar. We also had sensitizing our students about intellectual property, about their work, their jobs, and what is also involved in looking at all of their employment opportunities. And so JIPO came in, this was really on the campus, and came in and participated in this career expo. So I think we had a very, very full year. We might not have gotten to the place where Ms. Bellamy wants us to get, but I think over time we're going to get there. But we are beginning to sensitize, we're beginning to offer support. And I think this is the first part of what our intellectual property initiative with the TISC and the IP desk should do. Just to tell you that we do have a website for our help desk and the TISC. We have a physical location for the TISC. And before COVID-19, we were inviting persons to come in twice a month, and we would be providing support with their questions. And so now we have moved that to appointment via email, but you can see our IP or TISC and or IP help desk website from the libraries, the Mona Libraries page, and you can explore some of the things that we have to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Carr, for that historical development of our TISC IP help desk. Certainly, it is no secret that the UWI is at a place, and that place is, we are among the top 100 universities across the globe. And so says Times Higher Education Ranking. And so we are positioned to undertake this feat that Ms. Bellamy at JIPO, WIPO is asking us to undertake in terms of its Memorandum of Understanding. We certainly are moving with baby steps, but certainly this webinar is an opportunity for us to engage with external partners to understand how best to move forward with our help desk by virtue of their own personal achievements and best practices. And that is why we're having eminent panelists from across the globe to ensure that we can take examples from their own work in launching and managing a TISC help desk and IP center. At this time, we will have the testimonial from Mr. David Neal, It is my understanding that Mr. Neil is not available. I'm asking the host to allow me to share my screen because I would like to stand in Mr. David Neal's stead and read his testimonials at this time. But we would also like to share his achievement in terms of accessing the being a beneficiary of the Mona Library TISC and IP help desk and having allowed his registration of his trademark. Mr. Boucher, could you allow me to share Mr. Neal's trademark, which he so gratefully permitted us to do? The host disabled my screen sharing abilities. So I'm asking to be able to share. Okay. In the meantime, while that technicality is being worked out, I just want to say that Mr. David Neal indicated that when I attended the intellectual property workshop during the Open Library Week, and I believe he's talking about the Library Open Week, of hosted event at the University of the West Indies Mona campus in 2019, I learned a whole lot about intellectual property topics of copywriting, trademarking, and patenting. The main reason for my attendance, he said, was to learn about the procedure to register my intended trademark. And as such, after obtaining a wealth of knowledge, I then proceeded to attend future workshops, seminars hosted by the University of the West Indies Library, Mona Campus Library, staff for staff, which covered any sort of information about intellectual property rights. Eventually, I applied to register my intended trademark at JIPO. And I think Ms. Bellamy would be celebrating on this. And we hope that in the future that we will have a graph showing increasing registration at JIPO as a result of the Mona IP help desk. He said that eventually I applied to register, and after a period of 3.5 months, I was then granted an acceptance of trademark registration letter in order to proceed with my upcoming application steps of publication and subsequent registration if there was no opposition. Given that I do make the final payment within 2 months period after that, the date of the letter. I then made a final payment to JIPO. After a period of 4.5 months, I was then granted a certificate of registration for my trademark. My trademark name is Phenomenal Roots, which is currently used on poetry plaques and picture frames along with a logo. Such products consist of various poems combined with graphic arts background placed on wooden plaques, as well as encased in wooden picture frames to be mounted on indoor walls. The trademark may also be used as a brand name and logo on various types of clothing or as any color. That was Mr. David Neal's testimonial, and I would like to share his registration. This is what this trademark, which was registered with JIPO, and as such, Mr. Neal is quite pleased about how the University of the West Indies Library assisted him in presenting his trademark, registering his trademark, and he's proud to present what his trademark looks like. The truth is that the university is developing this ecosystem based on a framework that existed and that was put into operation through Dr. Kaur's efforts hoping to commercialize the process of innovation on the campus in partnership with other partners such as Mori, because we should not complete this webinar without mentioning all these campus partners, the faculty members, Mori, and all the other entrepreneurial departments on the campus. And certainly the library is obviously we're inserting ourselves into the whole process, the whole commercialization of this process in order to facilitate external partners, not just students on campus, but I believe that the Memorandum of Understanding endorses our guidance at the help desk to external stakeholders, such as the general public who wishes to innovate and to receive guidance in terms of how to get their intellectual property registered and approved, and to understand the application process. But not just that, to also assist them with the research to ensure that they do the prior art research in order to minimize cost and not to waste time on existing innovation. So our role is quite a critical one. Also, the library is well positioned because our research process includes the research and development program in the University of the West Indies, which includes thesis and research papers, production of technical papers, and so on. The truth is that we are in a position where, for example, the university shares the copyright in some cases. The students retain their copyright to their research output. And certainly we have infrastructure such as our university press and their partners who can, for example, afford students the opportunity to provide print on demand thesis, for example, like other universities. The University of Florida, for example, allow for students to publish their thesis on print on demand. Of course, it may be a little bit pricier than the usual, but certainly that's one way of innovating in terms of your copyrighted works. And so even the very thesis, the research process that we're involved in at the University of the West Indies can be monetized in that kind of fashion. So we are in a position to embark on great things. At this time, we're going to be having we also, I just want to mention that there was a student, a prospective student who inquired recently about the possibility of, and this is her music, Terry Ann Johnson. So I just played, with her permission, a little piece of her music. She indicated recently in a WhatsApp text to me that she wishes to pursue some kind of entrepreneurial entertainment kind of PhD at the University of the West Indies, and she hoped that we would be able to facilitate some kind of entertainment, entrepreneurial, musical entrepreneurial research along with an album launch, which would be treated as a thesis, a PhD thesis. It sounds like a mouthful to me, but certainly there may be that possibility in the future. With such a help desk, we'll be able to give guidance to such a student. So the future looks quite bright, if you ask me. At this point, we're going to ask I think it's Dr. Itu Elange Botoy, who is the Industrial Property Information Officer at the Technology Innovation and Support Division, TISC Development Section at the World Intellectual Property Organization to address us. But before then, let me just tell you a little bit about Dr. Botto. He holds a PhD in law, and of course, such PhD is with what you would say summa cum laude, which is the highest honors from the University of Geneva in 2006 in Switzerland. His thesis was entitled Intellectual Property and Human Rights, Impact of Patents on Pharmaceuticals on the Right to Health and in the context of HIV and AIDS in Africa. He lectured at the University of Geneva on constitutional law, introduction to Swiss law, law of international organizations, and African Charter and People Rights, and at WIPO, Worldwide Academy, on intellectual property, and at last, certainly, at the University of Management, Economics, and Finance of Geneva, on the law of international organizations, intellectual property, and functions of United Nations in 2007 to 2010. Mr. Botton joined WIPO in 2010 to work on the organization's program on the establishment of technology and innovation centers. So he's very well positioned to give us some directions here today. His main duties are to establish national and regional TISC networks in developing countries such as ours and least developed countries, explain to stakeholders, especially governments, universities, and SMEs, research centers, innovators, how to use TISC resources to promote innovation and create jobs, and therefore to reduce technical and socio-economic knowledge gaps and industrialize country members in the organization. In particular, Dr. Bate explains to DC and LC how to adapt and how to use legally, commercially, and technically intellectual property rights, such as patents, utility models, industrial designs, trademarks, and geographical indications on their respective territories in order to raise their standard of living, so their economic standing. Of more than 1,000 TISCs that WIPO has established worldwide, almost half is in his own record. So he has responsibility for over 1,000 of those TISC established worldwide by WIPO. He speaks several languages, wow, including Lingala, Lomongo, which is his language in his own country, French, English, German, Hebrew. He uses Portuguese, Italian, and the Spanish languages. Welcome, Dr. Botto.
Thank you very much for this generous introduction. I'm going to use to share my screen with you. So do you see my screen?
Yes, we're seeing your screen.
Yes, we're seeing.
Yes, okay. Okay, do you see it? Huh?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to speak on the WIPO TISC program and the promotion of innovation. I understand that I've been given 20 minutes. Is it right?
Not quite. I think it's probably 15.
Okay, 15.
That's
I think so.
Anyway.
Or maybe 10.
That's,
Or
yes, it's 20, it's actually 20 minutes, but we are certainly running out of time a little.
Of time. Okay, so let me speak about, okay, I'm going to speak. Okay, let me try. I can finish even before. There's no problem because I removed a lot of things as I told Marcus. Okay, so I'm going to talk on promotion of innovation and the TISC program and the resources of the TISC program to promote innovation. And then I will conclude. I understood that this webinar has been organized for especially universities. And that's why I wanted to say a word on university. According to me, in the word university, the root word is universe. And it means that those who go there, they have to fulfill a mission, which is to understand how their universe functions. And that's why you have a lot of faculties. You have, for example, the faculty of law in order to understand the environment of that universe and propose solutions. You have economics, you have medical sciences, you have polytechnic schools. So it means that a university is the national laboratory where those who go there, they have to bring solutions to technical problems which their country or region encounters. And
Dr. Butler, would it be possible for you to activate your PowerPoint? I think.
Oh, you don't see that?
That we're not seeing the PowerPoint.
You're seeing this, your screen.
We're seeing your desktop.
I shared. You are screen sharing. Yes, but this is my screen. You don't see that? Sorry, I think I don't understand why, but I've shared my screen, I think.
These things
I've shared it.
So we're seeing it now. We're seeing your screen now.
You see it now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so.
Sorry, if you would just go about maximizing the screen a little, then we would see less of the desktop, I think.
Do you see that?
Go into presentation mode. Yes.
Oh, yes.
The presentation, okay. Yes.
Yes, yeah.
It's a presentation. Do you see that?
Yes, so if you go into presentation mode by clicking on that little cup down the bottom of the screen, that would help.
I
see bottom right of your screen, of the PowerPoint screen.
You don't see that?
Okay, we'll continue as is. Yes, we're seeing your PowerPoint at this time.
Not my PowerPoint, yes. Okay, so I said I'll talk about promotion of innovation. Then I take just the case of cell phones. I'll go very quickly. So, for example, do you see this screen now? You see the cell phones used around 1980. Do you see that?
Yeah, we are seeing it now, yes.
Okay, so now, then you have this used around the years 1990. And then you have this one. You see, sophisticated ones. And then you have today also this Apple iPhone, modern and sophisticated. So this means when we talk about the promotion of innovation, it means when we say pro, it means forward. We don't have to circle around thousands of years. We need to go forward. And motion comes from Latin word movere, which means to move. We have to move forward. So that's why I show you these examples to show where we started. You will see a cell phone was like a big suitcase. And then year after year, so it has been promoted. And when we talk about innovation, so innovation means in, which means inside, and no worry, which means to transform. So it means that we have to transform tools which we're using. Everything we're using, we have to transform to promote them for the market. So I give you the second example of airplane. You see, this is the first takeoff. And if you see, if science stopped here in December 1903, I think it will be very difficult to travel to Jamaica with such an engine, you see? So, and now look here, in 1927, then there was a promotion. Now we have this Spirit of St. Louis. We see that it has been promoted, but this one in 1927 took Charles Lindbergh 33 hours and 30 minutes to go from New York to Paris. And today we have this, you see, and this takes only 7 hours from Paris to New York. So that was just examples of promotion of innovation. And now I'm going to talk about the TISC program. So this program, I think my colleagues who came there before, Alex Rishel and Musadik Hussein, they spoke about, they introduced the TISC program already, but I can just for recollection say that it stems from the WIPO development agenda, and the objective is to reduce the technical and scientific knowledge gaps between developing countries and least developed countries and industrialized country members of WIPO. So that's why we establish technology and innovation support centers in our member states like Jamaica. And I heard that today we are celebrating the first anniversary of the establishment of the TISC in Jamaica. And the regional organizations in order to reach the above mentioned goal, which is to reduce the knowledge gaps. And now I give you some examples of knowledge gaps in the promotion of innovation, which the TISC program tends to reduce, aims to reduce. You have here, out of 131 countries examined, you see Latin America and the Caribbean ranked the following. Chile, 54th, you see the 54th rank. And then you have Jamaica, 72nd rank. So you will have the presentation and then you will go through it and see all the details. That is in the promotion of innovation. So Jamaica ranks 72nd out of 131 countries examined. And then we have innovation input rankings score from 0 to 100. And then you have first in your region there, we have Chile. But what is interesting in Jamaica is the 10th, you see 10th in your region. This is relating to innovation input rankings. And then if you look at other countries, you see you will compare it after. And you see this is output ranking, sorry, this is input rankings. And then you have output rankings. So you will see that later. Now, what are the indicators which were used to come with these rankings? So we have 80 parameters, but we couldn't go through all these parameters. And that's why I've selected only the 8 which are there. Means institutions. What is the quality of institutions? Political, regulatory, and business environment, human capital and research. What is the level of education there? Research and technology, infrastructure, for example, its access and use, general infrastructure, market sophistication, business sophistication, knowledge and technology outputs, creative outputs. So these are the parameters which we went through in order to come with these rankings. And many countries, they should develop this, they should implement these, set up an ecosystem. I heard someone spoke about setting up an ecosystem. And your ecosystem, in order to promote the TISC network, should encompass, should look at all these 8 parameters, and your government should should invest in order to develop these parameters in your country. Now, TISC resources to promote innovation. So I have to number only some principal ones. We have IP documents, intellectual property documents. We have patents, trademarks, industrial designs, and geographical indications. We have these 4 databases here in WIPO, and we put all these databases at the disposal of TISCs around the world for them to use this information in order to promote innovation. And then we have 2 WIPO guides. These guides were published on the 22nd of June of this year, and they are very, very important to help you identify and use inventions, not only inventions which are in the public domain, but inventions, if you'd like to use, so you should go through those 2 WIPO guides. And then you have scientific publications. So now, how many patent documents do we have today? More than 110 million patent documents which have been published. So you will have access to all these, and then you will select those which correspond to your needs in order to study them, to learn from them, and to promote innovation. How these patent documents have been classified. So you have the 8 sections. All these technologies were classified in 8 sections. You have section A, human necessities, agriculture, food products, medicines, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, tobacco, etc. So let me tell you that today, if India numbers more than, is selling more than 70% of generics around the world, pharmaceuticals, it's because India used this information, which is found in section A. And then you have all the sections there. So you'll go through that after, so when you get this presentation. It means that you can divide your TISC in these sections in your country, you see, so that each TISC can deal with one section, and you can also set up subsections also. And then you will have access to this information, and then you will share this information to all the stakeholders. Now, apart from the information I showed you there on patent information, you have also patent databases, commercial patent databases also. So which you see you need to have access to this program, WIPO program, so that you can also benefit from commercial databases. Then you have the 2 guides. I spoke about the 2 guides, which are indispensable tools. And I only here speak on the guide on the use of inventions in the public domain, which is a catalyst for the industrial application of inventions and innovations in countries like Jamaica to strengthen your capacities in the manufacturing of technological products and processes in order to sufficiently supply your domestic market. In other words, this guide was designed by WIPO and published on June 22nd, I said it, to help researchers in Jamaica, researchers, universities, inventors, entrepreneurs, and small and medium-sized enterprises to know how to transform technological information into finished products ready to be distributed in their own country. And then this is the link where you can access that. We give training also to on these guides. Now, apart from patents, we have about 60 million trademarks that have been published and are available in the databases of national, regional, and international intellectual property offices. In WIPO, we have the WIPO global brand databases. And this numbers more than 50 million trademarks. So you can also have access to that and see, to get an inspiration from that, because you cannot only use patent and stop there. You should bring this to market. And to bring to market, you need a trademark. So that's why this database will help you understand and get inspiration on which trademark you would like to use in order to sell your product in your market. And we have over 15 million industrial designs that have been published in the databases of national, regional, and international intellectual property offices. So the two above mentioned resources coupled with patent documents can be intensively used in a country like Jamaica to promote job employment and development. These are the useful links for that. Now, apart from this intellectual property document, we have research for life programs, which means scientific publications. I think you have been told also about this and about RD, Inari, Agora. So these will put at your disposal 10,000, more than, let's say about even 100,000 scientific publications, which you will use because you need to combine technical information, which is in patent, and scientific information, which publications, in order to understand the state of an art. This is RD, so that is the scientific and technical journals that JIPO offers, and this is the TISC network worldwide. So you'll see Jamaica is there. We have today 80 countries, 3 regional networks. So ASEAN, CATICARD. CATICARD means, you see, Central America and the Dominican Republic. So that's, and then ARIPO, which is the African Regional Intellectual Property Office, that is in Africa. We have today more than 1,000 TISC established worldwide. And according to our publication of December 2019, 1.2 million inquiries are sent to TISC worldwide, you see, yearly. And now I have to conclude. To be among innovation leaders around the world, Jamaica should have higher expenditure on education and R&D, strong financial market indicators such as venture capital deals, openness to technology adoption and inward knowledge flows, and improving research base, active use of information and communication technologies, and organizational model creation, as well as a stronger or intensive use of your IP system. I'm going to close now just to say, because we're talking to universities, so universities should not stay, you see, in isolation or work in isolation. You remember what I said before, university means universe. So it's up to you to go to the world. So how can you go? You should have a bridge. So you should set up a technology transfer offices. For example, when you have an idea, when you have something, you student, professor, so how to evaluate this invention, if you have an invention or an innovation. So this technology transfer office should evaluate your invention and should also discuss with you on the commercialization strategy. And then after, on patent protection, for example, on marketing, on license agreement, and on royalties. So this is how university is going to serve your country, because your inventions, your innovations will reach out to the entire country and to all the populations. So that's what I wanted to say, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for such an interesting presentation, Dr. Boto. Interestingly, I note that you highlighted Jamaica's innovation ranking, and that is very important for us because that would help to see where we're at and to get cracking. And it's not just about Jamaica, but the Caribbean as a region, CARICOM on a whole, to ensure that we can innovate and ensure research and development become economic value of great proportion. Also, we thank you for your admonition about stakeholder partnership and not to isolate stakeholders, but rather to embrace, endorse, and include our stakeholders. Now we'll have the presentation from Mr. James Tommy Botwama, who is the manager, patent and industrial design manager at the registration services of the National Intellectual Office and National Focal Institution for Technology Innovation Support Centers in Uganda. Certainly, he comes with a lot of knowledge and experience and management skill in terms of a TISC. Mr. James and his team of patent examiners have provided technical support to innovators in drafting, protecting, and managing different aspects of intellectual property since 2012, and as well as the technique of setting up and maintaining TISC desks across the country. Welcome, Mr. Lawana Obama. Could you go ahead? James?
Thank you. Thank you very much. In Jamaica, on this part of the world, it's actually evening. It's coming to 8. As introduced, I am Luwama James Tony, the manager for patents and industrial designs. Allow me to observe protocol, the WIPO team, the team from JIPO, the team from MONA Library, and of course to all participants. I join you to celebrate the anniversary of MONA Library for having made a year with TISC. That is what I really want to go through. Of course, I come from Uganda, as indicated, with a population of about 45.7 million, with a GDP of about 34.3, and then USD billion, with a literacy rate of about 76.53, and our main economic activity is agriculture. But of course, we also get a lot of resources from tourism, from different national parks in the country. Getting to the business of the day, I come from the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, which is our national IP office, mandated to conduct a number of activities, to offer a number of services in the country, including intellectual property registration and other related services in relation to intellectual property registration. On top of that, we are also responsible for company registration. We are also the registrar of marriages in Uganda, and we are also responsible for insolvency. We are also the official receiver of government, but we also manage the security interest in movable property in the country. So briefly, that is what our agency does. Allow me to share with you some brief facts about TISC in Uganda. This is something which was started in 2012 after signing the service level agreement with WIPO. Uganda Registration Services Bureau, like indicated, is the national IP office, and of course, it is the national TISC focal institution. The same case like for Jamaica, where you have JIPO as the national TISC focal institution. Currently, we have 29 TISC institutions in Uganda as of the end of 2019, which are spread across the country. Out of the 29, 7 are in universities, 20 are in public research institutions, and the other 2 are in other government agencies, which are neither universities nor research institutions. Our approach in setting up TISCs, of course, every financial year, we identify candidate institutions. These institutions could be universities, like indicated, like for the case of the University of West Indies. It could be research institutions like National Agricultural Research Institutions. It could be a research institution on health, but it has to be a public institution. Or it could be a vocational institute, because not everybody is in a research institution. Not everybody is at a university. So we try as much as possible to spread these institutions, these TISC, Technology Innovation Support Centers, in a varied range of institutions. In those institutions, before we set up, we try as much as possible to identify a focal person. Who is going to be the focal person? It's not that it's us as the national focal institution that we identify a focal person, but we have to engage these institutions to identify some form of contact. And those contacts could be a head of IP for those institutions which have, for example, IP policies, and they have some kind of structures in these universities. You'll find somebody responsible for IP, but in most of the cases, you'll find that that individual is not there, because most of the institutions don't have IP policies. They only have policies in relation to research. And therefore, if they don't have somebody responsible for IP, we end up looking for somebody responsible for research. If it's not very clear, if the structure is not very clear, we usually target the units responsible for graduate studies. The reason for doing this, in case there is no clear person for research, if there is no clear person for IP, is because in most of the cases, you find that somebody responsible for graduate studies somehow cuts across the different faculties, the different schools of the institution. When we identify that person, we usually engage them to ensure that we have a meeting with the top leadership of the institution, because for any TISC to be successful, you really need this engagement. You need the buy-in of the top leadership of the institution, mainly because it requires a lot of time to run the TISC, the Technology Innovation Support Center. It also requires some resources. For example, in my case, where I have to go and set up and manage these TISCs, to monitor their performance, and these TISCs are spread across the country, then my Registrar General should be able to really give me the support to be able to run these, to facilitate my engagements in these different institutions spread across the country. And of course, when we do that, we also end up in that first meeting. Now we continue, like it was indicated for the case of JIPO, that there were some engagements from the first up to when the TISC was actually set up. So that was really very, I was happy when I got that experience from the presentation we got from JIPO. So we organized subsequent trainings on general aspects of IP. It could be, something to do with the benefits of TISC program, the resources that are available, provided under the TISC, and things like that. And when we go through those series of trainings, we also end up setting up the TISC. Now, after setting up the TISC, we usually conduct follow-up engagements on specific aspects, because now during the orientation trainings, you then end up establishing or gauging where this particular institution or where this particular school or faculty is. Then you end up organizing follow-up engagements based on their readiness. If they still require introductory trainings, we offer that. But many times during this phase, we go for specialized trainings, such as patent searches, because many times you find that you can't introduce in some of the institutions, you can't even begin talking about patent searches if these people don't even appreciate what IP is. So we begin from there. When they appreciate, then we move to the next level. Then of course we take them through the non-patent searches, and most of the universities have through other engagements, they have some skills on non-patent searches. Then we could also offer them trainings on how to identify the different IPs to really do that. We take them through sessions on exploitation. We also take them through sessions on enforcement. It could be sessions on patent drafting. For those institutions which don't have the policies, we also now go the extra way, that we put in extra time to really interest them to have the IP policies, because where there are no IP policies, it's really very hard for you to penetrate with this gospel of IP. When we do that, we also realize that it requires a lot of monitoring. Like I indicated, we set up our first TISC in Uganda in 2012. It is coming to nine years down the road. But if you don't follow up, with these institutions, you can find that there is no activity after the setup. There's a lot of following up, making inquiries. How far are you? What is happening? Where do you need our assistance? Where can we come in? So we have that sort of back and forth to ensure that our TISCs are successful. Allow me to now go into specifics, because the University of West Indies, being a university in nature, you really want to hear what has happened to some of our universities. We have a case of Mbarara University of Science and Technology, abbreviated as MUST, as one of our success stories. But we also have success stories in other research institutions, such as the National Agricultural Research Institution Organization of Uganda. Coming back to MUST, which is Mbarara University of Science and Technology. It is a government university which was opened in October 1989. It currently has 9 faculties, and they have 1 TISC under the Center for Innovation and Technology Transfer. Like I indicated in our methodology, we held a consultative meeting with the top management in December 2014, having identified a contact in that university, interested that contact about TISC, and they were able to help us reach out to the management of this institution. And in December 2014, we were able to have that engagement with the top management. After that, we conducted subsequent trainings for researchers in May of 2015. You can see the time difference. Our first engagement with the top management was in December 2014, but we were only able to conduct the one with the actual researchers as indicated in that photo there in 2015. Now, when we did that, we ended up now setting up the actual TISC on April 13th of 2016. And that is the photo when we are having the training for the researchers. In the case of MUST University, of course, I cannot stand here and indicate that they started having inventions or whatever they were working on after we set up the TISC. Even before we set up the TISC, definitely they had the inventions. They had some inventions, but these inventions were not protected. There was no clear strategy of protection. There was no clear strategy of funding for IP protection. There was no, and therefore there were no IPs registered under the university. There were no IPs registered under the university. Now, when we came in, we were able to show them the benefits of registration. They were able to register because they had inventions in the pipeline. What they didn't have was just a strategy. Them being a public university, they were actually not very sure that they were supposed to protect, because they were saying they were using public funds, and therefore they were not in position, they couldn't protect, since they had used public funds to come up with these. But using the TISC system, we were able to say yes. It doesn't stop you from protecting, because when you protect, it is just to prove, to show ownership, who did this. It doesn't stop you from offering a free license for whatever IPs you have. But at least everybody will know that it is this research institution which owns this particular invention. Now, because of that gospel, we were able to convince them to protect. They had a very interesting invention which they call the augmented infant resuscitator, and they were, because this is a very good invention, they were able even to protect it as a PCT. They had another invention called a vein locator, which they were able to protect as a national patent. And all these were protected in 2017, having set up the TISC in 2016. Then they had another mobile application for specialist consultation. And for this, they were able, since it was a mobile application, and under our law, most of the mobile applications are protected under copyright. So they got copyright for that. However, they also went further, because they had to put it to the market. They also had to protect it as a trademark, as MobiCare, for purposes of identifying this product in the market. And then in 2017 again, they were able to, one of their students was able to come up with a very refined hand sanitizer, for which they protected a trademark, Sunny Drop. And like I'll share with you, this was one of the key products when we got COVID, because this product was protected in 2017. And COVID, at least in our case, it became active between February there, or March, up to, of course, going forward of 2020. And they were producing, they couldn't even satisfy the market. Then they had another invention, which they protected as a utility model. They have a motorcycle safety and luggage storage attachment. In my country, being an LDC is not something we are proud about, but we have so many motorcycles, and they cause a lot of accidents in our country. And that's why there was one of their students was able to come up with a motorcycle safety and luggage storage attachment, which they protected as a utility model. They also have another thing which they were able to protect, which is a system for providing medical triage. They were able to register a copyright, and they also have a system and method for remote detection and management of illnesses, which they were also able to protect as a copyright. Now, just going into the specifics, I want us to appreciate what these things have been able, the different inventions have been able to go through. I should have noted before that in as much as we had the other points listed under the methodology, our approach, this approach is kind of different for different institutions. It's kind of different even for different faculties within the same university. You'll find that different faculties or different schools or different colleges are at different levels. For example, you find people in the faculty of law, probably because for them they deal with IP in their studies for some universities. You find them ready, and they pick this information. Whereas in other faculties, it may not be the case. But even when it comes to the different inventions invented in the same faculty, in the same school, you find that they progress at different speeds. I talked about the Augmented Infant Resuscitator, which is abbreviated as AIR. The project lead is still there, is a lecturer at MAST, which is in Mbarara University of Science and Technology, called Dr. Data, indicated with that red arrow. And this is a low-cost technology used to resuscitate babies in order to curb infant mortality. Of course, in my country, we still have high infant mortality rates. And that's why this university was able to pick interest in such an invention. And I indicated before, this invention was protected under a PCT. And when they did that, they were able to compete in various competitions because it had some level of protection. And when they did compete in various competitions, they were able to win a transition to scale grant through participation in a competition as indicated. This was one of the competitions in which this invention was displayed, was displayed. And because of that, they were able to issue a license to Philips to be able to scale it up and also be able to conduct clinical trials in order to produce this thing to the market. And this is one of the products which this university is proud about. There is a link provided. I'll be able to share my presentation, and there's a link for you to be able to get more information about this invention. The slides are not moving. The slide, I don't know if it's a network issue. You'll forgive me. Okay. We had another invention that I talked about, but I really want to show you how these different inventions have been able to progress since protection, and of course the intervention of the Technology Innovation Support Center at MAST. And then the vein locator is the low-cost, non-invasive, lightweight blood vessel illuminator designed to alleviate the clinician's work burden associated with the proper vein during peripheral intravenous cannulation among children. It's usually a nightmare if either to cannulate or to be able to inject babies. And of course, this is one of the inventions which these people are proud about. So they went ahead and were able to protect it as a national patent, having filed in 2017. And MAST, because of the interest in this invention, was able to procure a company to be able to develop the product further and also be able to do clinical trials before this product can eventually go to the market. Then remember that I talked about the hand sanitizer, the SaniDrop. This is a hand rub sanitizer that kills about 99% of the germs. Sorry, apologies for my spelling error. That is of germs. And like I indicated, this trademark was registered in 2017, of course, assisted by our TISC in at MASC, of course, in consultation with the National IP Office TISC. And a small-scale spin-off that produces best on demand has been formed for this SaniDrop. And like I indicated before, because of COVID and the increased demand for hand sanitizer, they produce on demand, but of recent, they can't even satisfy the demand because it's a very good product. It's a very stabilized product because their issue at the beginning around 2017, because the sanitizers didn't have a lot of market. The few that were on market in Uganda, you'd use them, the hands would end up cracking and things like that. Now for them, they worked on something which is smooth, and because of that, and of course, because of the coming of COVID, their product is really doing wonders for them. So the COVID, of course, increased the demand from the market for this product because the demand was too high. And there's the link where you can be able to get a lot of information on that specific product. Definitely, the TISC, because of TISC, we've been able to create some sort of awareness. But I can't sit here and I say that everything is rosy because of TISC. We also experience some challenges. So remember that I talked about the motorcycle. This particular invention has not really progressed as we would have expected, because when we tried to inquire, they indicated to us that the lead person left the university and the project somehow stalled. This is a very common thing. You find that somebody is on a project today and you work with them, before you know it, he has moved on. And these are some of the challenges. And I really wanted to bring them out for our people at Mona University and for our people at JIPO to be able to really get this information beforehand as we begin on this journey of managing TISCs in Jamaica, which is quite interesting. Now, we also had another computer-based application for medical consultation, the MobiCare. In this case, the patent was, of course, filed, pilot studies conducted, but no clear strategy to commercialize. They've had a challenge on how to commercialize some of these where, they don't have, for example, the air, the augmented infant resuscitator. When they went for these exhibitions, somebody picked interest. But in a situation where somebody has not picked, there is no that invention can be marketed and brought to the market. And you'll find it in some of the upcoming slides. Then we also talked about the system and method for providing medical triage to pregnant mothers. The patent was filed, pilot studies conducted, but of course, no clear strategy to commercialize. Of course, at the moment for this particular invention, no one has come out to really pick interest in this invention of Mbarara University. Then we have the mobile application for specialist consultation, the MobiCare, the copyright and trademark applications were filed, pilot studies conducted, but no clear strategy to commercialize. And I'm going to expound more on that particular slide in the upcoming slides. The current needs of MUST. Our experience is that at the beginning of setting up the TISC, the demand will be, please come and conduct searches. Give us general information on IP, those basic things. But as time moves on, the needs kind of evolve. And given that MUST is one of the first TISCs we set up in Uganda, you realize that these people no longer call us for patent searches because we've been able to create local capacity at their own TISC to be able to help the researchers to be able to conduct some of the searches that we used to conduct at the beginning. So the needs of MUST have evolved from basic search strategies for different patents to non-patent databases to more practical aspects like technology landscape reports, patent landscape reports, patent exploitation, commercialization, and of course exploitation, including commercialization, licensing, and other aspects such as business plans, and then IP management. I just wanted to also note this for the sake of JIPO, that the needs of Mona University will evolve from these basics of general IP knowledge, the basics of patent searches. With time, people need to know, the young ladies who want to commercialize their music, people will be coming to say, no, I have music, I've done this, I want to license, how do I do this? So you realize that now the needs have gone from the basic aspects of appreciating what IP is, appreciating the different databases where they can be able to find information to improve their inventions, to real practical things. How do I push this?
Mr. Lebon, my apologies, but I have to give you another 2 minutes to wrap up. I did.
Yeah, I'm concluding. I'm concluding. So the lessons learned, of course, that is not usually a straight path for all institutions, faculties, and departments. I said that before. And of course, there's a lot of, requires a lot of support from top leadership in terms of funding, requires a lot of commitment from the focal persons for this to be able to succeed. And of course, the constant engagements to identify the different areas of support during the different stages of the TISC. And of course, the continuous trainings of the TISC for the TISC focal persons in the country. By way of conclusion, of course, as the national TISC focal person, our conclusion is that the TISC program has actually improved the innovation ranking of Uganda from 1177 in 2012. We've been able at least to come to 102 as of end of 2019. Many universities and research and development institutions under the program have been able to use the TISC resources and also be able to protect the different IPs. And we've also been able to interest the different institutions also to have the IP policies to be able to put in place structures to manage the IP. The needs of the institutions, like I've noted, have evolved with time, and there is therefore need for the program to evolve to match the needs in order to remain relevant. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Luboma. That was quite an interesting presentation. I note a number of suggestions that you have for us in terms of your own activities, including competitions, innovation competitions, ensuring that we travel the right process, and also of noteworthy is I look at the motorcycle luggage storage innovation and the fact that you mentioned that lead persons may leave the institution and therefore the project may stall. So that is one lesson for us to ensure that we can have a vibrant and continued program at the University of the West Indies Mona campus. At this time, we're going to ask you to post your questions in the chat so that we can have a record of the questions, because we are running seriously out of time. And as such, we want to move forward very quickly. And in case you don't get a chance to ask your question, we can do follow-ups from the questions posted in the chat. Leave your email address, for example, if we have to respond to you about the questions. At this time, we're going to introduce Mr. Noor-Eddin Bokohara. At this time, Mr. Bokohara is a Moroccan, and he's an engineer who graduated from the National School of Applied Sciences, as well as the University of California in Licensing and Technology Commercialization. He joined the Moroccan IP office in 2005 as a patent examiner and is currently in charge of innovation, technological transfer in that office. And therefore, his main duties are developing the use of IP systems in Morocco, and in particular patents for University Research and Development Center, which I find quite interesting, and of course of worth to the University of the West Indies, and also assist and guide small business management and startups in terms of innovation. He's also in charge of implementing JIPO's program in Morocco as TISC Network Program Manager. Thank you very much for participating Could you go ahead, please?
Hello.
We're hearing
Do,
you.
do you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Hearing you.
Yes, we're hearing you.
Very good. I'm going to share my presentation. And first of all, I'm very happy to be with you in this important webinar on TISC in Jamaica. And many thanks to JIPO, Jamaican Intellectual Property Office, and University of the West Indies, and in Muna, and also WIPO. As I said, I will to share with you our experience in Morocco related to TISC network. Do you see my presentation?
Yes, we are seeing it.
Okay. So what are the objectives of TISC program and network in Morocco? We have established three goals of TISC network. The first is to develop the use of patent system by universities, R&D centers, and SMEs, small and medium companies, and also startup. The second goal is to improve the use of patents information. As you know, and as it was presented by my colleague Elangi from WIPO, there are many patent databases, and we can do many searches on it, and we can use patent information as a tool to do innovation projects, and also to use it in, for example, to know what happened in some technological area or innovation fields, etc. The third goal is to enhance technology transfer. We are working in some projects to contribute in all activities in Morocco related to tech transfer office, and also the connection between universities and companies. So the TISC network has been established to contribute and to participate to achieve these three goals. So this is our history and experience in Morocco. We have started on 2011. This network has been created in 2011, of course, with the collaboration of WIPO and other stakeholders based in Morocco. Until 2011 to 2018, we have implemented the organizational aspects, and also we have implemented the TISC network. We have created many focal points. We have done many trainings, etc. And since 2019, we are thinking to change the current organization to because we have some new needs coming from our members of TISC network, and they interested to some new, for example, new topics of training and new needs. So we are changing, we are transforming the current organization, for example, to implement some new services as IP policy, typically in universities and R&D centers, and also to organize some training related to patent commercialization, and also to participate in the creation of tech transfer office. And we have called this new organization as TISC 2.0. So this is the current situation we have in Morocco, the Kingdom of Morocco, 54 members and 70 focal points. And as you see in this graph, we have universities, R&D centers, engineering schools, clusters, which includes companies and universities, technical centers, IP office, and some professional association. So what are our tasks? Our tasks are to inform users about the system, intellectual property system, in particular patent invention. And also we offer users services that enable them to search patent information. We have 4 services focused on patent information. We do some state-of-the-art search, technology scouting, patent mapping, and freedom to operate. And the what we can say, our achievements up to now, up to 2000 and the end of 2019, we have done more than 1,200 search reports, and the TISC members have registered more than 1,100 patent applications, national patent applications, and also 160 national PCT applications have been registered by TISC members. What we have done from 2011 up to now, during this period, we have implemented 54 membership. And for example, when someone is wants to join the network, we have an agreement between the TISC network and the new member, what we call them membership. We have 70 focal points. We have organized 14 training on site in Casablanca and also in other cities in Morocco. Every year we organize online training, and we have 3,000 persons who have participated on this online training. We have also organized 60 workshops and some, as you see, some numbers about the production of the TISC network in terms of patent, national patent application, and PCT applications. So this graph shows the jump regarding the production of patent application by universities and R&D centers and companies in Morocco. And as you see, in 2009 and 2010, before the creation of the TISC network, we had some few patent applications registered by some universities. And you know, from after the creation of the TISC network, after 2011, 2012, you see we have some what we call national champion who became the big patents application in Morocco. And you see, for example, at 2017, 2018, we have many organizations in Morocco are interested in the use of patent system, and they are doing many national patent application and also PCT patent applications. So we have some challenges and also some perspective about the developments of the TISC in Morocco. And the first challenge is the sustainability of the focal points, as my colleague from Uganda has said. Also, we have the same challenge. Currently, we have many focal points. They are happy. They are working in the network up to now. But we have some, for example, if someone of them change the organization, of if, for example, change his post, we need to find someone to do his job. So we have this challenge to maintain and to keep the focal points, to keep the work of focal points in their organizations. And the second challenge is to patent commercialization. And also it was said by my colleague from Uganda. Also, they have some projects, but they don't have a clear vision about the commercialization. Also in Morocco, we have the same situation. We have national patents portfolio and also PCT patents portfolio, but we are looking to how to commercialize this patent application, because it is not enough to register a patent application. It will be more interesting interesting to go to the market and to give value, financial value to the patent portfolio. So to be in the same line about those challenges, we have created a new organization called TISC 2.0, and the idea is to contribute and to create a new environment and a new context to help our members to go to the market and to be able to commercialize their patent applications. So currently we have 6 organizations have joined this new organization, and they are they beneficiate from some new services. For example, last year we have started a project in collaboration with JIPO to implement intellectual property policy in those 6 organizations, and to have a clear IP intellectual property policy on universities and R&D centers. And our goal is to help them, as I said, to go to the market and to commercialize their patent applications. We are also looking for some new subscriptions on new databases. My colleague from JIPO, Ilangi, has presented the whole databases which have agreement with the JIPO to get access to TISC network to use their databases. Currently, we have a subscription with the Quistel to use the Orbit tool, and currently we are looking for new databases to help us, as I said, to go to the market and to commercialize patent application. And also we are focusing on to help those 6 organizations to have a new training on patent commercialization, in order to, as I said at the beginning of this presentation, the third goal of the TISC network in Morocco is to help companies, universities, R&D centers, and also particular and individual inventors to have a patent application. It is good, but it will be more good to have a valuable patent, and a patent which is in the market and which is used by users in markets in national level and also international level. So this is the current situation in Morocco, and I will be very happy to discuss with participants in this webinar if they have some questions related to TISC network. And thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Bokoro. I am really heartened by this registration, the application statistics in Morocco. I am quite impressed, and certainly I am impressed by the fact that you have at least 6 TISC centers, organizations that have joined with you. And so we have hopes here at the University of the West Indies, which fortunately for us is a multi-jurisdictional institution. And so there is hope for us to spread across the Caribbean in terms of our sister campuses in the other islands, ensure that we increase the number of TISC organizations that are desks and services that are available throughout the Caribbean, so that we can improve the registration and motivate innovation across the region. I know that you might have lots of questions. I'm looking now at the chat and I'm seeing only one question. I'm not sure. I'll take maximum 2. So I'm going to take that question from the chat. There is a question about how does Uganda provide financial assistance for their TISC host institution. Monica is asking James, you know, how she can get to have him train their TISC stakeholders on patent drafting. And she provides her email address. So of course, the link can be made there to give some assistance. But the question on how Uganda provides financial assistance would be, could you take that, Mr. Lebuama? Can you take that question? And interestingly, I think that Mr. Bokohara could also respond to that in terms of the Moroccan situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. On the issue of funding, we don't. If you look at the slides, I indicated that we identified that this institution had actually inventions even in 2016, but protection, they filed only in 2017 because at the time when we identified some of the inventions which were good in their university, they hadn't provided for that in their budget. So we interested them and we said, next financial year, when you are budgeting, kindly include some money to cater for this. And that's what they did in 2017, and we subsequently provided. So the only kind of financial assistance is that our office foots the bill. It foots the bill for for its officers to move the fuel, the accommodation, to be able to do this. Otherwise, the office doesn't offer any financial assistance as far as protection.
Maybe I can add some information to what was said by my colleague James from Uganda, and to give some information about the question related to patent drafting, who can give this kind of training to patent drafting. I think it was a question from Monica Hamon Gates.
Yes, the question is from Monica.
Yes, in Morocco, this is it is the IP office, the OMPIC, which take in charge the financial cost to organize training, in particular in patent drafting to inventors, universities, and the users. And I think maybe Mr. Elangi from JIPO can say more. They have a program in JIPO called EIP program, the Pro Bono program, which is started by JIPO, and its goal is to help innovators and inventors to have training in patent drafting, and also it includes some lawyers in IP lawyers and patent attorney. They can contribute in this program, inventor assistance program, to help inventors, and it works. We have implemented this program in Morocco, and it works very, very well, because currently we have many TISC focal points. They are registered in this program, and they help individual inventors to draft their patent applications, and also they help them in many issues related to how to register national or international patent application.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bukhahora. There's another question on.
Can I say something, please, regarding the
Sure. Go ahead, Mr. Lombardo.
Inventor Assistance Program, JIPO. Before we can bring assistance to inventors in our member countries, they must sign an agreement with JIPO in order to be a participating country. For example, we have Colombia, Ecuador, Morocco, Peru, the Philippines, and South Africa. You see, if your country is not participating in this program, we cannot assist your inventors or your SMEs. So the Inventor Assistance Program is one of the TISC resources which we speak about. And if you go to JIPO, you'll find all the details, just to complete what, to add on top of what Mr. Bukarwa said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. At this time, we should have the commemorative cutting of the cake. Are we ready for the commemorative cutting of the cake?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Can we project on screen, please? And then following that, we will have the closing remarks from Mr. Dr. Goff. Dr. Goff is one of our partners from JIPO, and he's been very, very instrumental in providing training for us. We do appreciate all the hard work that he has put in this project, and we hope that he can bear with us a little more and provide additional training for us as we move this IP project, IP Help Desk project forward. Are we ready to project on screen the cutting off the cake? Perhaps if we are not yet ready for that, we could move on to Dr. Goff's closing remarks, and then have a little bit of Terry and Johnson's music. Cut the cake. We're ready? We're there?
Yes, we are. We are here.
Could Ms. Sadler, Mr. Boucher, would you be able to maximize that screen on screen and share the cutting of the cake in a more visible way? This is a moment that we must celebrate. Definitely, we are moving up in the ranking as a university, and it is important for us to be able to harness the intellectual creativity of our people, not just in Jamaica, but across the region. And it is very important for us to move forward and ensure that we can innovate and develop our respective jurisdictions economically from intellectual property as it is being done across the world. Go ahead. It appears that we're getting a little bit of feedback there. We're not getting the projection on screen in terms of the cutting of the cake. It's projecting, but it needs to be maximized. Any technical assistance in this regard?
Ms. Douglas, we're projecting from Ms. Harrison's phone.
Okay, so we can just simply zoom in. They're somewhere there in the middle. So if you focus on Ms. Harrison, Simone Harrison, then you will see the cutting of the cake.
Yes, I'm here.
Is there anything that Ms. Bellamy
Questions,
or
good
Dr.
afternoon.
Carr wants to say at this moment? Okay, so we're getting quite a bit of feedback here. Dr. Goff, Ms. Bellamy, Dr. Carr, is there anything that you would want to say other than just projecting the cake?
There's a feedback. Okay, this one is open.
All right. Okay, no, I'd just like to congratulate the University of the West Indies on the establishment of the first technology innovation support center in Jamaica and in the English-speaking Caribbean, and encourage the heads of other tertiary institutions in Jamaica to join the TISC network so that we can move our ranking on the Global Innovation Index from 72 to perhaps 50 in the next 5 years. I think that is something that we could work towards achieving, and I would like to congratulate again the University of the West Indies, specifically the Mona Library, for all the work that they have done in assisting the establishment of the Technology Innovation Support Center. I'd like to also recognize the staff of the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, Dr. Marcus Scott and Chantal English, who worked very closely with Ms. Harrison and Dr. Carr to have this event here today. So I look forward, please reach out to the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office for more information on how you can start a Technology Innovation Support Center. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bellamy.
So we
Now we have the cutting of the
So
cake.
we're gonna eat the cake. Unfortunately, we're not here to join us, but it looks very good. So next time when there's no COVID, everybody can come and we can all enjoy a bigger.
Exactly. So instead of this virtual cutting of the cake, next time around, we will have a whole fulfilled feast. Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Goff, would you like to have your closing remarks at this point? There are some feedback here. Let us see. A few mics need to be muted. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Goff. Dr. Goff? It was an interesting set of presentations, and certainly we have learned quite a lot in terms of how we can move forward, the partnerships that we can forge going forward to ensure that our TISC help desk and intellectual property help desk can advance and benefit the institution and Jamaica and the Caribbean region going forward. It is really truly a very significant moment in our own development. And with COVID, as Dr. Lombao, as well as Mr. Bokohara indicated, that the opportunities are endless in this regard. And so we just have to motivate our population, we have to motivate our people to innovate and innovate and innovate and monetize and monetize. That really is the thrust of this endeavor. Doctor?
Yes,
Dr.
can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me, Ms. Douglas?
Yes, we're hearing you now.
All right, so thanks everyone for staying with us until the end. You got the mask, all right. Thanks for taking us onto the end of this program. We're very glad that we could have it done to mark the first anniversary of the TISC being established at UWI. We particularly want to thank the organizers, of course, JIPO, UWI, and WIPO, and to thank Dr. Batoy for putting together a stellar panel of speakers for us to be able to share their experiences, both from Uganda and from Morocco, and what we can look forward to as we seek to grow the TISC network at UWI in Jamaica for the betterment of our global innovation index and our increased patent registration and IP registrations. I particularly was interested to learn of the many TISCs in Uganda and in Morocco and how they interact with each other, the work that's happening at the Mbara University of Science and Technology in Uganda, and how they've been able to grow the network, grow the IP system through the TISC that they have set up in their network back in Uganda. As well as in Morocco, you were very interested to hear of the statistics in the rise of patents, particularly since the TISC was established there. I see that Morocco has now started at TISC 2.0, which is again very interesting for us to see what are the potential challenges, but also the ways that we can overcome them. We seek to ensure TISC can serve the stakeholders in Jamaica and in the wider region. So I want to thank again the WIPO colleagues, our TISC network colleagues, our audience for participating, and to our local TISC network members too for joining us. We hope to be able to have in 2021 a full slew of activities for TISC that will be able to, as we hope, grow the industry, grow innovation, grow invention and IP registrations for us here in Jamaica. So thanks again, those are my closing remarks. And we look forward to seeing you at future JIPO events online. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Goff. And I say a big thank you for all those who held on with us, all those who had to leave. Thank you so very much for attending. And as we depart to all our destinations, we just want to say, stay safe, stay COVID-free, innovate, and let us get rid of this thing called COVID. I leave you with a musical piece, which is an IP piece from one of the University of the West Indies PhD aspirants. We hope that we can get her to do her PhD here. Thank you very much for coming and sharing with us. All the speakers, thank you very much for coming and asking your question. One love from Jamaica.